Hi folks, just wanted to bring you an update on the Iturri British Army cold weather boot. And after I've reviewed that, I'm just going to show you where I am today. It's quite an historic place and an interesting place to come and visit. So if you carry on watching, I'll give you the history of this location and some of the facts about it. But back onto the boots. So these were part of the 2018 rollout by the British MOD for the British Army as a cold weather boot. And I bought them new in 2018, I think for about £150 at the time. There is an earlier video on the channel about the unboxing of these boots and the specifications. So this is just a review, having covered over 500 kilometres in them, and my thoughts about them. And I've been using these during the winter. We're now moving into spring. And where I live in the UK, we didn't have a particularly bad winter. There wasn't a lot of snow and ice, but there was a lot of rain, a lot of mud. And these cope really well with that. They're very, very waterproof. They are Gore-Tex lined in a full leather boot. So there was no issues at all when it came to the waterproofing. They were comfortable as well. Quite a comfortable boot. I think from memory there was very little, if any, breaking in period required. They're extremely well made. So all in all, a high quality boot. From a wear point of view, they've done well as well. They have what's called a Defender outsole, which I think is another Italian company, and we'll have a look at the outsole at the moment. That has performed very well on mud and in muddy conditions. I haven't used them on wet rocks, etc., but certainly on muddy trails and things like that, they've performed extremely well. So there we are, there's the outsole, somewhere on the heel as we can see, but not doing too badly for over 500 kilometres. And I say the tread on the outsole is very good in bad conditions. So the Defender outsole. Any minor points on these boots? There's a couple, but quite minor. First of all, they're very squeaky when you're walking. So if you were sort of sneaking up beyond an enemy sentry to dispatch them, something I'll never be doing, then you probably wouldn't want to be wearing these boots because they'd be squeaking all the way up to them. Again, doesn't worry me, but it might worry some people. The other point is the locking cleat on the boots can sometimes jam up. There's another view of the outsole where it can be difficult to pull through the lacing on the locking cleat, and we'll probably see that in a moment. And what I do is I just try and keep the laces sort of greased up with dubbing, or you might want to use beeswax just to help the laces slide through the cleats. The ball bearing parts there I find to be very good, and the D-ring, it's just this locking cleat can sometimes jam up, but it's a minor point given the overall quality of the boot and the quality of the leather. They're extremely well made. So yeah, there we are, trying to pull through the lace just to show you that it can be quite tight at times doing that. But as I said, minor points given the overall quality and comfort of the boot. I think you could use these throughout most of the year in the UK, apart from the height of summer, so winter, autumn, spring if the weather was bad, and then certainly some places which are quite difficult terrain, the mountains or some of the moors. I'm sure these boots would be a high performing pair of boots. Okay, so that's the Iturri cold weather boots, introduced in 2018. Iturri is a Spanish company, and they're also supplying the patrol boot and the desert boot currently to the British forces. And that's just a label showing you the markings there. So we'll move on in a moment to just talk about where I am today. As we mentioned, Bradgate Park, and the house, or the ruins of the house we're looking at there, were owned by a family called the Gray family that had this area for over 500 years. I'm just putting the camera on the tripod there, and modern technology defeating me. But there we are. There's the house. A little bit more about that in a moment. This is an area of about 850 acres, and it goes back something like 800 plus years. And it was originally used as a hunting ground for deer. And there's lots of deer still here in the park. In fact, you're advised to keep your dogs on a lead. And we'll probably see some in a moment. I think it comes into shot. Some of the deer comes into focus in a moment. Yeah, there we are. They're just having a lie down during the midday sun. And they're obviously not being hunted now. They're just being hunted by cameras. So this was owned by the Gray family. A little bit more about them in a moment, but for 500 plus years. But in 1928, it was bought by a local businessman, a benefactor, and who gave it to the people of Leicester and Leicestershire for the quiet enjoyment. Therefore, it's totally free to come in. There are 3 strategically located car parks, but it's like sort of £3 to park your car. Very, very popular with the people of Leicester because it's only a few miles north of the city, and on a nice day it's pretty crowded normally with families, with picnicking, playing balls, etc. I shot this on a working day, so not quite so many people. And that's the ruins of the family house of the Gray family, which was completed around 1520. It's an important monument in the sense that one of the Gray family was a lady called Lady Jane Grey. And she's important because she became known as the 9-day Queen. She was Queen of England for just 9 days until she was deposed by Mary. She was then locked up in the Tower of London. And I think Mary didn't really want to harm her, but there was certain politics of the day which you can sort of look up on the internet. And a year later, in February 1554, together with her husband, she was executed. She was kept in the tower, which is also given the name the Bloody Tower for good reason, because they used to execute people by axe, and she had the unhappy experience of seeing her husband being taken out on a cart, headless, from the tower. And she was only 16 or 17 years old at the time. She was then led out onto the Tower Green. A very poignant scene because she then blindfolded herself with a handkerchief and then asked for help to be placed her head on the block So very tragic and sad ending for poor Lady Jane Grey and her husband. Now, there are lots of other things to see in the park. There's a small river with ducks and swans. There's the deer that I mentioned. If you're into geology, there's some very old volcanic rock here. There's some, I think, the oldest in the UK, oldest rocks with fossils that date back even older than some of my jokes. 560 million years apparently. So there's bird life, and Bradgate Park and this area is also home to the only naturally venomous snake in the UK, which is the adder. I've never seen one, and I think you'd be very lucky to see one. If you were ever bitten by an adder, and apparently in the UK about 100 people a year are bitten, then you definitely need to get treatment, because it can be serious, particularly for young children. You can go into shock, etc. But you'd have to be a very unlucky person for it to be fatal, because since records began in, I think, 1876, there's only been 14 reported deaths in the UK from adder bites. So pretty unlucky if you got a fatality from an adder bite. Tragically, I think the last one was a young child in 1975. But it can be serious, so you need treatment. So if you see an adder or see a snake, how do you know it's an adder? Well, if you approach it and you hear it going 2 and 2 are 4, 4 and 4 are 8, 8 and 8 are 16, then you know it's an adder. I told you my jokes were pretty old, didn't I? That's an old schoolboy joke, by the way. But I say, very rare to see them. More likely that your dog might go bounding off into the heather. The grass has been cut at the moment, but there's some patches of heather, and I think that happened to a local lady a couple of years ago. Dog went off and got bitten by an adder, but he did survive. So certainly not a reason to worry about coming here. So yeah, a few things to do. There's I think a tea shop, coffee shop, cafe here somewhere located. I've never been in it. Another shot of the deer there. Lots of them about. So yeah, you need to keep your dogs under control. Is the recommended procedures. And as I say, even when it gets busy, there's always a spot to get. I mean, it's not particularly that busy today, as you can see. There's a few people in and walking around. There's another place in here which I think I've showed previously. I made a video about Swiss Army boots. And I showed an old towel, which I think we'll come round to in a moment. Another shot of the Grey's house. People on the path. Well, it's been pretty bad so far this year in the UK, even though it's spring. But now this was a really nice day today, so I thought I'd come out and do another review on the boots. Okay. So not a lot more to say about this area, I think. I say it's part of what's called the Charnwood Forest, and there's the tower I was mentioning a little while ago. That's known as Old John, and Old John was apparently a servant of the Grey family, and that was built in 1784, and Old John was tragically killed in a bonfire when a pole in the bonfire for the 21st birthday party of the son came down, hit him on the head and killed him. So they made this memorial in his honour, and it looks like an old-fashioned beer tankard with a handle on the side, because John apparently liked a pint of beer or so. Well, that's the story, and everybody in Leicester knows that story of that Tower of Old John. You can see it from the city, but actually fairly recently they found some older maps, and that area was still called Old John before the tower was built. So it's possibly just a story. And you can walk up there, you can see people are up there, and it was used as for deer spotting at one time. And then in the 19th century, the Greys had some sort of racetrack here, horse racetrack, and it was used as a sort of vantage point for the horse racing. Not used for anything now; it's just shut up. But it's a well-known monument in the area. So that's Old John. And then we're back to having a look at the deers again, a close-up of the deers. And that's about it from me, folks. So, as always, enjoy your walking and take care out there.